Today, we are going to discuss 10 meritorious actions, dasa punya kriya in Theravada Buddhism. Lord Gautama Buddha described 3 unwholesome roots that exist in the human mind. And they are greed, lobha, hatred, dosa, and delusion, moha. Now, all our mental defilements and all unwholesome, unskillful actions, whether they are mental, verbal, or physical, that we perform are based on these 3 unwholesome roots. And we have been accumulating them throughout the cycle of birth and death, our samsara. And we will continue to do so as long as we exist in the cycle of birth and death. And because these 3 unwholesome roots are so strong, that natural tendency in the human beings is to do unwholesome actions rather than wholesome actions. But we have the capacity to defeat and even neutralize those 3 unwholesome roots so that we can strengthen the 3 wholesome roots. And the 3 wholesome roots are non-greed, alobha, non-hatred, adosa, and non-delusion, amoha. Now, merit is the English translation of the Pali word punya. Now, punya purifies and cleanses the mental defilements. And the opposite of punya is papa, demerit. Now, the meritorious actions are the skillful, wholesome, good physical, verbal, and mental actions that brings benefit to oneself, to others, as well as to oneself and others. Now, merit that one can earn through the meritorious actions can lead to happiness not only in this life, but also in future lives and rebirth in happy worlds of existence, such as heavenly celestial worlds. And merit can also positively contribute towards one's spiritual development. Now, the effect of merit is stronger than the effect of demerit. So the Buddha has said that merit that one earns through performance of the meritorious actions can weaken and even neutralize some demerit that one has accumulated through performance of the demeritorious actions. And we will continue to perform both meritorious and demeritorious actions as long as we remain in the cycle of birth and death. But when one gains enlightenment as an arahant, then one does not make either meritorious or demeritorious actions. In a discourse called Punna Kriya Vattu Sutta, of the Anguttara Nikaya. That's a collection of the Buddha's numerical discourses. The Buddha described 3 grounds of making merit. And the 3 grounds are giving, dana, moral conduct, sila, and development of the mind or meditation, bhavana. In another discourse called Sangiti Sutta of the Dika Nikaya, that's a collection of the Buddha's long discourses, Arahant Sariputta, who was one of the 2 chief disciples of the Buddha, named the same 3 grounds of making merit. That's giving, moral conduct, and meditation. In the commentaries to the Buddhist scriptures, the commentators have expanded the 3 grounds into a list of 10 meritorious actions. And they are giving, dana, moral conduct, sila, mental development or meditation, bhavana, paying reverence to holy persons and elders, apachayana, service to others, veyyavacha, sharing of merit, pattidana, rejoicing in others' merit, pattanumodana, listening to the Buddhist doctrine, dhammasavana, teaching the Buddhist doctrine, dhammadesana, and straightening out one's views, dittijjukhamma. Now, the first meritorious action is giving, dana. Now, dana is a word in the Pali language which means giving, offering, generosity, and liberality. So, a dana is an act of intentionally giving something that belongs to oneself to another person without expecting anything in return. Now, whenever the Buddha gave a discourse to those who came to listen to the Buddha for the first time, Buddha used a graduated approach to delivering the sermon. And in that graduated approach, Buddha used to begin the sermon by describing the value and the benefits of giving, dana kata. Now, when we consider dana in relation to the 3 unwholesome roots, dana can not only affect the root cause of greed, but it can also affect the other 2 causes of ill will and ignorance to some extent. Now, Lord Gautama Buddha, when he was a Buddha aspirant, a bodhisattva, perfected certain positive qualities called paramis over an incalculable period of time. And it is said that anyone who hopes to follow the Buddhist path of liberation and attain enlightenment has to develop the same 10 perfections. And out of the 10 perfections, or dasa parami, the very first perfection was giving, dana. Now, what is given by a donor to a recipient as an act of giving or dana can generally be divided into 3 groups. The first group is material gifts, amisadana. And the second group is a gift of fearlessness or safety, abhedana. Now, if one observes the Buddhist precepts of abstention from killing any living beings, then that allows other living beings to live in safety without fear. The third group of what is given as a dana is the Buddhist teaching, and that's called Dhamma Dana. There is a book called Dhammapada, which contains 423 verses that the Buddha has said on various occasions. And in the verse 354, the Buddha said, Sabbadhanam Dhammadanam Jinati. The gift of Dhamma excels all gifts. And within the Buddha's dispensation, the lay disciples provide basic requisites of the Buddhist monks and nuns in the form of dana. And that is, the lay disciples provides food, robes, lodgings, and medicines that are required by the Buddhist monks and Buddhist nuns. The second meritorious section is moral conduct, sila. Now, moral, ethical, virtuous conduct is to avoid performing any unwholesome, unskillful, verbal, and bodily actions that can cause harm to oneself, others, and to both oneself and others. And that is done by restraining one's mind, speech, and the body. Now, the Buddhist path of liberation, which is the Noble Eightfold Path, consists of 8 factors. And those 8 factors are divided into 3 stages. The first stage is morality, sila. Second stage is concentration, samadhi. And the final stage is wisdom, punya. So the basic foundation of the Buddhist path of liberation is morality, sila. Morality is to be developed first in order to develop concentration and wisdom. And like giving or dana, sila is also one of the 10 perfections. And within the Buddha's dispensation, there are different moral precepts for the lay disciples and for the monastic disciples. And for the lay disciples, the minimum code of morality is what is called the Panchasila, the 5 precepts. And the 5 precepts are to abstain from killing any living beings, to abstain from stealing, to abstain from sexual misconduct, to abstain from false speech, and to abstain from any drug and intoxicants. And for the Buddhist monastics, the novice monks and nuns are expected to observe 10 precepts, while the monks and nuns who have received higher ordination, the monks have to observe 227 rules of discipline, whereas the Buddhist nuns have to observe 311 rules of discipline. The third meritorious action is development of the mind or meditation, bhavana. And out of the 10 meritorious actions, meditation perhaps bring most merit that can lead to worldly benefits as well as spiritual benefits. There are two types of Buddhist meditation: concentration or tranquil meditation, samatha bhavana, and insight meditation, vipassana bhavana. Now, concentration meditation existed even before Lord Gautama Buddha appeared in India, whereas insight meditation is unique to Buddha's teaching because that was discovered by Lord Gautama Buddha during the process of enlightenment. Now, concentration meditation is practiced by using a single meditation object out of 40 meditation objects that are suitable for concentration meditation. And when one focuses attention on these meditation objects, concentration of the mind develops. And when concentration deepens, it can eradicate or suppress mental defilements, which are called mental hindrances. And when concentration deepens, it can lead to what are called deep mental absorptions or jhanas. And the Buddha has described 8 jhanas that one can develop through concentration meditation. Now, insight meditation or vipassana bhavana is practiced in order to gain an insight, wisdom into the true reality of all existing phenomena in the world. Everything that exists in the world is impermanent, anicca, leads to suffering, dukkha, and has no substantial entity called self, anatta. Mindfulness meditation, as described by the Buddha in the Satipatthana Sutta of the Majjhima Nikaya, that's a collection of the Buddha's middle-length discourses, is also an essential aspect of insight meditation. The fourth meritorious action is paying reverence to holy persons and elders, apachayana. And that is to respect and show honor to who are worthy of respect and reverence. And who are those who are worthy of respect? Now, Buddha, Dhamma, the Buddha's teaching, and Sangha, the noble disciples of the Buddha, are worthy of respect and reverence. And then one's parents and other elders, teachers, those who are more virtuous than oneself, are also worthy of respect and reverence. In addition to being a meritorious action, another advantage of paying respect to others is that helps one to develop humility, defeating one's pride and arrogance. In the discourse called Mahamangala Sutta of the Khuddaka Nikaya, the Buddha said, Puja cha pujaniyanam etam mangalam uttamam. To honor those who are worthy of honor, this is the greatest blessing. The fifth meritorious action is service to others, Veya Vacha. And that is to offer one's selfless service and assistance to others without expecting anything in return. And the service is done purely for the happiness and welfare of other individuals, for the common good of one's community or society. Now, the services that are done to those who are worthy of reverence, such as the triple gem, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, parents, teachers, other elders, and virtuous people also bring merit. And then one could earn merit by providing a service, supporting the elderly, the infirm, and the sick to improve their quality of life. And one could also participate in various social service programs and also volunteering oneself to any worthy cause. The sixth meritorious action is sharing of merit, pattidana. Now, one can share the merit that one has earned through meritorious actions with others for their benefit and welfare. Now, when one shares merit that one has earned with others, it is not going to reduce or lose the merit that one has earned. And in fact, that can bring even more merit to the one who shares, because sharing of merit is also a meritorious action. In a discourse called Thirokudda Sutta of the Kuddaka Nikaya, that's a collection of the Buddha's minor discourses, the Buddha advised King Bimbisara to perform the meritorious action of giving dana and transfer the merit that he earned to the dead relatives. And in Buddhist countries, one can see Buddhists performing various meritorious actions like giving dana and then transferring the merit that one has earned to dead relatives, deities, as well as all living beings. The seventh meritorious action is rejoicing in others' merit, pattanumodana. Now, when one sees or hears or knows about a meritorious action that is performed by someone else, if one can appreciate, approve, and rejoice in that meritorious action, then that is also a meritorious action. So, if this rejoicing is done in the presence of the person who actually did the meritorious act, and that can bring even more merit to them. Now, in the Buddhist countries, this rejoicing is generally done by saying the word sadhu, sadhu, and that means well done, well done. Now, one advantage of rejoicing in others' merit is that even if one is unable to perform a meritorious action by oneself, just through the rejoicing of someone else's meritorious action, one is able to earn merit. The eighth meritorious action is listening to the Buddha's doctrine, Dhamma Savana. Now, when one listens to the Buddha's teaching from someone else or from some other source, that is also a meritorious action that can earn merit. Now, when Lord Gautama Buddha was alive, People were able to go to the Buddha and listen to the doctrine directly from the Buddha or from the Buddha's senior enlightened disciples. 26 centuries later, the Buddha's teaching still exists and is freely available for one to listen. And by listening to the Buddha's teaching and practicing them, one is still able to earn merit and also liberate themselves from suffering. Now, in a discourse called Mahamangala Sutta, the Buddha said, Kalena Dhamma Savanam Etang Mangala Muttamam. Timely hearing of the Dhamma is the greatest blessing. The Buddha has advised that one listens to the Buddha in a certain way so that one could gain maximum benefit from listening to the teaching. Buddha said, one should listen attentively, and then one should try to remember what one heard. And then one should try to understand the meaning of the teaching that one heard, reflect on them in relation to oneself, and then put them into practice in one's day-to-day life. The ninth meritorious section is teaching the Buddhist doctrine, Dhamma Desana. Now, teaching the Buddhist doctrine to others for their benefit and welfare is also a meritorious action. And the teaching that the listener receives can help them not only improving their worldly life, and it can help in their spiritual journey for liberation from suffering as well. Now, when one teaches the Buddhist doctrine to others, one should not expect to gain any fame, respect, or material benefits. It should be done solely for the purpose of the welfare of the listeners. One can teach the Buddha's teaching either through oral sermons or leading Dhamma discussions, or through writing and printing books, and also through various electronic and digital media. The 10th meritorious section is straightening out one's view, ditthijukhamma, and that is to gain some understanding and a belief in the working of the karma. Now, karma is any intentional or volitional, mental, verbal, or physical action. And when one has a good understanding of the inevitable results of the karma, that is, good karma will result in good results, bad karma will result in bad results, and that is straightening one's view. Now, wrong view can lead to unwholesome and unskillful actions that can lead to suffering in this life as well as in future lives. And that will also distance one from the spiritual journey towards the Buddhist liberation from suffering. Now, according to the Buddha's teaching, straightening one's view is to possess the right view with no belief in a set of 10 factors. and that is, one should not believe that there is no merit in almsgiving, there is no merit in large offerings or small offerings. There are no good or bad deeds that lead to good and bad results. There is no merit in what is done to mother or the father. There are no beings of instantaneous birth. There is no this human world or any other world. And there are no ascetics who attain super knowledge. And if one believes in these 10 factors, then one has developed worldly right view. Now, the meritorious deeds that one performs can lead to worldly happiness in this life as well as future lives. And that can also result in a rebirth in one of the happy existence, such as the sensual heavens. But merit by itself will not directly help one to attain liberation from suffering. However, merit that one gains will help to gain favorable life situations and also develop positive qualities such as morality, sila, and concentration of the mind, samadhi, that can help to cultivate the Buddhist path of liberation from suffering. Now, Buddha has said any wealth or other material possessions that one accumulates during one's lifetime can be lost due to theft, flood, fire, and confiscation by the state. But one will not lose the merit that one has accumulated, which can continue to produce positive results not only in this life, but in future lives too. And in the Mahamangala Sutta, the Buddha said, Hubbecha kata punyata etam mangala muttamam. To have done meritorious actions in the past is a great blessing. Thank you very much.